Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another Stonehearth Desktop Tuesday. Last week, and on Stream 200 a few weeks before, I mentioned that the team is taking some time to answer some high-level artistic questions that affect multiple features. One of these questions, which Allie has been tackling, is what does the edge of the world look like? Right now, as you all know, the edge of the world looks like this. We fondly call it our pizza box, and we've left it this way for years instead of dynamically generating more terrain when you get to the edge, because having terrain and all the stuff that lives on it is expensive, and most games take place in and around your town. We don't want to spend CPU and memory resources creating a world that you're only in a little of the time, which invites us to limit the problem by constraining the map size and instead focusing our time and attention on the parts of the world that you inhabit most. So given that the world will be bounded, Allie took it upon herself to do some paintings of what the edge of the bounded world could look like. What I'm about to show you now are her concepts. There's a long way to go still, from concepts to tech to game design, before anything you see here could even begin to make it into the actual game. That said, the first thing that Allie looked at were how other games handle the edge of the world. Link to the Past has clouds, and Monument Valley has mists and waterfalls. She also looked at real-world examples of landscape representation, like maps and these amazing book sculptures. She then did a bunch of concepts, which fell into three categories. Category number 1 was what she called direct representation. Inspired by A Link to the Past's clouds, what if we just obscured the edge of our universe with clouds too? Does this work? The answer is kind of. This looks beautiful, but unlike A Link to the Past, we can see our Hearthlings from any angle, which means that the clouds could look really weird if the viewing angle tips up from below. In this example, Allie addresses the problem by making the clouds look like cliffs, but she didn't really like how that looked. It felt too solid and not true to the existing metaphor of the game, which is that you're picking a part of the world with the full expectation that the rest of the world is still out there somehow. Another solution was to keep the ground at the edge of the world going but make it super hazy. The problem with this is that a Hearthling could still get right up to the edge and it might not be sufficiently clear to you, the player, that your Hearthling can't or shouldn't go further. Allie's second category of solutions was to go abstract, inspired by book sculptures. We've talked about how Stonehearth is a story that you create, so what if we transform the pizza box into a storybook? Another way to go here might be to continue with the theme of the map, from which the player chooses their settlement location. Once picked out, the player could see said location as an actual map which could fill with color and life as the Hearthlings explore it. Or maybe even as an actual drawn map that pops into 3D as the Hearthlings explore. Personally, this section really speaks to me, because Stonehearth is a world where each item has weight. Logs fall from trees and are carried one by one to stockpiles. Stuff doesn't stack. Buildings are built block by block. The world is a tangible world. The map concept and the book concept, to me, gives the game world a place in my world, in the player's world. It gives the land you see a relationship to you that is as clear as the block of wood's relationship is to the Hearthling who carries it. But to be complete, Allie also did a third set of paintings, these asking what the game would be like if the edge of the world contributed to the lore of Stonehearth. For example, what if, after you select a place to travel, you get there and it turns out that that place was actually set adrift from the rest of the land and turned into an island, or thrown up into the sky? These are really provocative ideas, and they have massive gameplay implications. I mean, who could see those crystals without wanting to mine them out and use them for things? If this is where we as a team eventually go, these concepts are too powerful to just be artifacts of the end of the world. If we include them in the game, they should probably also be part of the whole world and its gameplay. So now that Allie's made these high-level concepts, where do we go from here? Well, we get feedback for starters. As a team, our first step was to give her feedback about how the concepts made us feel, and what implications each would have from a technical design and gameplay perspective. On the whole, we as a team really liked the book and map concepts, so before diving into answering some other key art questions like biomes and weather, Allie will probably explore these themes further, perhaps seeing if they could be merged, like in a book of maps, or exploring what they'd look like from various camera angles, or what the game would actively look like as the player moved through a world that had this metaphor applied to it. After that, we can see what it would take from a rendering perspective and from a gameplay and UI perspective to bring it fully to life. This is going to be a long process, but as always, we're happy to share it with you as we go through it and hear what you think about it. And that's it for this week. Leave us a note about what you think in the comments or on our dev blog at discourse@stonehearth.net. We love hearing from you, and see you next week!